And today we are going to be doing some ornaments. We're using air dry clay, and I think all of you have your kits now, so you should be all ready to go. Hopefully you've got all your things ready and you can work with me. So here we go. I'm going to move the camera so that you can see my table, hopefully, and we'll get started. So normally the air dry clay comes in great big bags like this. It's 25 pounds and it's big and heavy, but you should have gotten in your kit a little bag like this. And that's what we're going to be using today. And if you want to do any more of these, then you can buy this clay at Amaranth. It's called Amaranth Stoneware, and they're in Kingston, and they sell these bags of clay. I bet that's really noisy. I'm going to show you how to cut the clay off of this great big piece of clay. We're going to use, this is called a wire tool, and this is what potters use. But if you don't have a wire tool, you can use just a piece of fishing line. So you don't have to have this. You can just use a piece of fishing line and see how I can pull the wire through. It makes it really easy. If I had to use a knife to cut this, it's really heavy, dense clay, so it would make it a little bit harder to cut. But that wire or fishing line or a piece of wire that you have at home, that's going to make it really easy to cut your clay. Anytime you've got clay, because it's air dry clay, you always want to close it afterwards because the air is going to make this dry, and I don't want this to dry out. So I'm going to close it, make lots of noise again. And to close the clay, you always twist the bag, fold it over, and then use the elastic that came with the bag. And that will keep it nice and ready for the next time you want to make something. So now that you've got your clay, and you probably have pieces that are half this size, so you've probably got something like this in your kit. So what you want to do with that clay is, it's a little bit big, so we're going to just cut it in half, and you can just pull it and twist it in half so that you've got two pieces and it's a little bit more manageable to work with. So once you've done that, cover your clay with a bag. So I've got a bag here, and I'm going to cover my clay with that while I'm working with this piece. So hopefully you've got all your items that you need. And the first thing that we're going to use is a rolling pin. And this is just a piece of dowel. It's a rolling pin. But if you've got something that you can roll the clay with, that's perfect, because we're going to start to roll and flatten this clay because we're going to make a flat ornament. You can use your hands. You can kind of pat it down if you want to. But I find that the rolling pin makes it a little easier to make it even. And then when I'm finished rolling it one way, I will flip it and roll it the other way. I find that's the easiest way. Sometimes I'll flip it right over and roll it again. And then I'm going to turn it and roll it. And I might flip it one more time. So you can make your ornaments as thick as you'd like. I find about 1/4 of an inch is the right thickness. So this is an ornament that I finished, and it's about 1/4 of an inch. The clay does dry, so when you first start doing this, I would do it a little thicker, and then if you want to do it a little thinner, you can. This is another ornament that we made with the air dry clay. It was 1/4 of an inch, but it did shrink a little bit. So once you've got that done, lift it up so that it doesn't stick to your newspaper or your counter, whatever you're working on. And then we're going to use what's called, in potter's terms, a rib. And that is, these are professional ribs that potters use. And some of them are really soft, some of them are really hard, and some of them are made out of different metals. This one's a little sharp. So I wouldn't recommend this for children, but it is a good tool. If you don't have that, if you have an old room key from a hotel, or if you've got an old gift card that doesn't have any money on it, for sure, don't have one that has money on it. And you can cut it with your scissors into the shape of a rib. And you just basically need a curved, straight with curved edges. And that's all you need. And what we're going to do with this is we are going to actually take this rib and we're going to just pull it down the clay. And what we're doing is we're compressing the clay. So what has happened so far is we've taken our roller and we've stretched the clay out. And so now what we want to do is we want to have that clay compressed so that it's all nice and tight again and it won't crack when we let it air dry. So I'm just going to do this and then I'm going to flip it over and I'm going to do that on the same side and it's going to get rid of all these little wrinkles. Can you see those? It's going to get rid of all those little lines and wrinkles. So I'm just going to put a little bit of pressure. And I like to do it back and forth. And I might even do it diagonally. I think that the different directions really push that clay back together and compress it. And I can feel it. I can almost feel it getting tighter. Flip it over. I might do it again just to make sure it's all compressed. It's feeling pretty good and we are ready to go. So you would have done that with your old key card. You're just going to pull it and stretch it, pull it, and sorry, you're not stretching, you're compressing it. So it's all ready to go. Now for the fun part. We want to put some designs on it. Now you can make an ornament and not do any texture. I like texture. So this is one with texture. Can you see the little bumps? That's from a doily. Or you can do it flat and just paint it. This one's just flat. So we haven't rolled anything into it and we just painted it. But today I'm going to use the lace that you got in your kit and I'm going to put some texture on here. So I'm going to put the lace down on my clay and then you can press it with your hand, but an easier way to do it if you have your rolling pin is to take that rolling pin and press it down into the clay. And I like to do it both ways because I really want to compress and I want to push this lace into the clay. And I can almost see the clay oozing out and through that lace a little bit. So that when I pull it up, and here's where the magic happens. Ta-da! Isn't that fun? So we've got some really beautiful texture in this lace. Let me lift it up so that you can see it. So now we've got a pretty design on here. And I don't want to hang this on the tree because that's not very pretty at all. But if I give it a nice shape, I could cut it into a circle. I could cut it into a heart, into the shape of a house. You can make a mitt. You can do any shape that you want. If you have cookie cutters, so I have a star cookie cutter here. So if you have a cookie cutter, you can actually take this and push a cookie cutter through it. Now, when I do this, I find the cookie cutter sticks. So if you take a piece of plastic, so that's where your saran wrap in the kit, if you've got some saran wrap or an old bag that you got at Loblaws, because we like to recycle, I'm going to put that down and then I'm going to put my cookie cutter on it. So I've got my clay. Then I've got my plastic, and then I've got my cookie cutter. And then I'm going to press the cookie cutter down. And you want to press it right down to the counter. So give it a good press. And if that hurts your hands, put something on top of it so that you can push it. Well, I think I broke my tray. Okay, don't use tiles. Use maybe a cutting board or something. Okay, we can edit that out. We'll try it again. Okay, so if that's hurting your hands, then you can use something else like a cutting board or something and press that on top of your cookie cutter. And then lift your cookie cutter out and you can see how it's cut the clay into a really pretty star. Now I'm going to use, this is called a pin tool and that's what potters use, but you can use a dowel with a point on it if you'd like to. And we're just going to take away the clay. So I'm just going to make a line here and I'm going to pull this away because this is really not what we're going to use. We want the star. And so we're going to take this star and I'm just going to lift it up and make sure it's not stuck because we did push it down with the cookie cutter. So it's not stuck. So here we go. And then what we're going to do is put a hole in it because we want to hang this on the Christmas tree or on a wreath or on a garland. And I'm going to take the back of this point, it's pointed on this side, and on the back it's nice and round. And I'm just going to put this right here, and I put it in the water because it'll just kind of melt that clay a little bit. And I'm just going to push straight down, and I'm twisting it and pushing, twisting and pushing. And now we've got a hole so we can hang it. The other thing that I like to do is on the edges, it's a little bit rough. And so what I'd like to do is take a sponge, put it in the water, and just use a tiny, tiny bit of water. Don't use too much water. Otherwise your clay kind of gets muddy and mucky. And I just, see that rough edge? I'm going to take this sponge and I'm just going to gently go around the back of this star and make it nice and smooth. Now clay is all water-based, so if you get this on your clothes or on your counter, you can clean it up with water. So it's a nice, easy clay to clean with to get your mess away. So there's the star, and we've smoothed the edges. And I always like to take the back and I like to put my name or my initials, or if I made it for somebody, to mom or to dad, or the year, then you can do that on the back. So you can take the point of your skewer and you can just write Merry Christmas. You can put your initials. There you go. So I just put my initials in this star. And then I'm just going to smooth out the little bumps. And we've got an ornament. I like to put the ornaments somewhere to dry now because this is air dry clay. I'll put this ornament right here, maybe on a tile, and then it will warp as it dries. So as it dries, the clay shrinks and it kind of warps a little bit. And this one I just air dried, and you can see the little curve. And I like it. I like that it's got a little curve to it. So you can just let it air dry like this, or this is another one that is a little bit warped, a little bit curved. Or if you want it really flat like this, see how flat that is? Then put it on something, and then I just put some weight on top. So I put another tile on top. And that way it will, the weight of this will keep it nice and flat. And then as it dries, I would just check on it every day or two and just make sure it's not sticking, make sure it's okay. And then I would just let that dry like that. So there's our star. Want to do another one? Let's do another one because we have lots of clay. So let's do another one. If you don't want, so let's say you can get patterns anywhere in the house. If you look around, you can use anything that has texture, anything that has bumps, anything that has contour. So I'm going to, let's say I didn't like this, I can take my rib, which is this thing, or your little room key that you've made into a rib, and I'm going to take that pattern away. Look at that. It's so easy. I love working with clay because you can fix and you can play and you can do anything you want with it. And the texture is completely gone. And you can start all over again. So I might, if I want to make this a little thinner, make it another ornament, I'll just roll it a little bit. And again, what do we do after we roll? Yes, we take the rib and we compress the clay. So I'm going to compress the clay. Then I'm going to flip it over and I'm going to press it, push it just a little bit. Then I'm going to flip it over. I might do it one more time. Nice and smooth. Nice surface to work with. Lift it up so it doesn't stick. You could be working on newsprint. You can be working on newspaper, magazine, old magazine, a counter. Then let's do something different. Let's, instead of using lace, I'm going to use some knitting. So I'm going to take this knitting and I'm going to put it on here. And what are we going to do? We're going to roll it. So I'm going to take this and I'm going to press it down and really press hard so that it pushes into the clay. So I'm putting lots of pressure on it. Then, this is my favorite part. We're going to lift it up and we've got a knitted pattern, another pattern, a different pattern. So I'll lift it up and show you this pattern compared to this pattern. Not sure if you can see that. So that, to me, looks like a mitten. What do you think? I think that looks like a knitted mitten. So I am going to, I don't have a cookie cutter that's that shape. So if you don't have any cookie cutters, here's what you can do. You can take your pin tool, or you can take this pointed dowel, or you could skewer. Actually, this is a skewer from the dollar store. So you can use a skewer from the dollar store with a point, or you can use an X-Acto knife. Adults can use X-Acto knives. Children can use just little dull knives from the kitchen, and little craft knife if you've got one. And we could cut out a shape. So I might start with, you can take this pin tool and I'm just going to go around and I'm going to try and make a mitten. I'm going to come around. I need a thumb, don't I, in a mitten? So we're going to give it a thumb. Then I'm going to come down. And I kind of like this little line. So I'm going to come down and then I'm going to go across. So I've got a cuff. And I'm going to cut this away. And there we've got a mitten. And if you want to, you can do designs on this clay. You can use your pin tool and press. If you look around the house, you're going to see lots of things that you can press into clay and make it look really fun. There we go. So now, look what happened. I've got a little cuff on my mitt. And then if you'd like, I take my fingers and I just take away that rough edge because it's a little rough. And I like it nice and smooth. And sometimes when they're sharp edges like that, they chip a little easier. So I like to smooth it down with my fingers. And I'm just kind of pressing it in. You can rub around it like this if you want to. But we're just getting rid of all those rough lines. And I'll probably do that on both sides. So if you flip it over, you can do the same on this side. Now you can use your sponge. Just don't use too much water, because sometimes when you use too much water, then it gets, the clay gets very, very soft. And I'm just wiping around the edge. And hopefully, I'm hoping you can see how this sharp edge is now softened with this sponge. And this will be nicer to touch. It won't be as sharp an edge, so it's more tactile. There we go. So how are we going to hang this? I could hang this on the tree like this. I could hang the mitten like this. So it's completely up to you which way you're going to hang it. So I'm going to take my little skewer that I got at the dollar store in a package, and I'm going to put a hole right in here. Now don't make it too close to the top because you don't want it to break. So at least 1/4 of an inch down, and I just pushed it through, and now I'm making a little circle so that it's a little bit bigger, and I'm just smoothing out the edges. Smoothing out the edges on the back, and I've got a nice little spot that I can put a pretty ribbon, and I can hang this mitten. And again, don't forget, Merry Christmas, Mom. You can put the year, you can put your initials. I'm going to put my initials. And there's your little mitten Christmas tree hanger. It'll shrink a little bit, And again, I'm going to put it on top of those tiles that I have the other mittens on, or the other star on. And then I just stack my tiles. So I put that one there, and then I just grab this one, and then I just put that one on top. And then I just keep going and I build all my ornaments like that. And here's another idea. How about making a little necklace? Because you can use this over and over. You don't ever throw your clay out because you can always use it for something else. And you have lots of clay, so you can make lots of ornaments, or you can make other things with these little tiny pieces. You can make big ornaments, you can make little ornaments. But on this one, I might just roll this out a little bit thinner because I want my necklace a little bit thinner. So use up all that clay. And then I'm going to compress it, compress it, compress it, push it down, push it together just with a little bit of pressure. And I have this little doily, this little bit of lace. So I'm going to take that and I'm going to press that into it. And let's see what happens. That'd be a pretty snowflake on an ornament, wouldn't it? I might do that next. But for now, I'm going to do a necklace. And look at how pretty that turned out. I love that. Now to cut that into any shape you want. So if this was going to be something that you want to give mom for Christmas, you could make a circle, you could make a square, you could make a heart, whatever you'd like to draw. So maybe, let's see, maybe I'll draw a square. So I'm going to take those away because we're not going to use that for this. We'll use that another time. Then I'm going to do this and this. And that's a fun shape. What do you think? Then I'm going to pull it up and I've got a little fun shape. And then, of course, we need a hole so I can put a chain through it and a little jump ring. So push this through, wiggle, wiggle, turn it around. Nice hole. There you go. Look at that. I just made a little pendant for a necklace. And I would smooth the edges down with a sponge. And you can either let it dry like this and see how it moves and turns, and it might come into like a really funky or you can make it like shape like this. This would be fun rather than something really flat. You can make really fun shapes with it. And then just let it dry. I'll put it on top of here. There's my fun little funky pendant. I might just curve this around a little bit. And then with this clay, what you want to do is just make a ball. So you're just going to push it all together and then roll it. You can roll it on your table. And you are all set to start again. You could make more ornaments with this. So I would start by rolling it out again. And then I've got lots of clay to make lots of ornaments. So this air dry clay, you can set aside. It'll take a few days to dry. Make sure it's completely dry. And then all you need to do is put some tinsel or put some ribbon and you can hang it just like that. Or you can paint it. So if you wanted to paint it, I use water-based paint. Let's see, we can see each other. So I use water-based paint, and you can get it at the dollar store. So you can use any water-based paint, and you can just paint this on. You can sponge it on and dabble it on like I did with these. So I just used a sponge and I used 2 different colors. Or you can leave it plain. So this one, I made a bird. So you could make little birds with them and hang those. You could put a paper clip, cut the paper clip in half, and then you've got a little hanger. And this is air dry clay, just the way it is with no paint on it. I did put varnish on this. So if you want to, If you want shiny, then you use Mod Podge, and you can get this in any craft store, and that will give it a nice finish. So you can see it's kind of shiny here, hopefully. So you can finish them with a varnish or a Mod Podge if you want to. And you can make lots of things. So you can make ring holders. So here's a little ring holder that you can make with that clay. The sky's the limit. So I hope you have fun. I hope everybody enjoys making ornaments, and I hope that you have a great season and a wonderful holiday.